Okay, I'm going to bring this meeting to order. And we are going to adjourn to closed session.
You want me in there?
No, not right now.
Okay.
I'm hanging in there.
Boys 4x1 in the relay. Broke the school record.
And please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call. We're all here except Melissa. Notice to the public. Any member of the public wishing to address the governing board on a topic within the subject matter jurisdiction of the district, but not on the agenda, may do so during the public comment period identified on this agenda. Bylaw subjects not on the agenda cannot be acted upon by the board except to briefly respond, clarify, or refer to staff for review and presentation at a future meeting. The board president will recognize you for the public comment on matters on the agenda at the appropriate time. Okay, I see we have no correspondence.
No.
And nothing on our consent agenda. Do we have any public comment? No? Okay, no guests or presentations, and library director's report.
Okay, library activities. This is an update on the Student Success Initiative. I've been talking with Solano County, and they're setting up our circulation system, Carl. It's our integrated library system, which has all the circulation records and all the public records are in that. So they're setting that up to accept student IDs, and they're going to create a new classification. Solano County and Benicia and Dixon student IDs all have the same 5-digit format. So we decided that the Dixon records will have a D in front of them, so there's no confusion as to which records are which. They think that they're going to be able to launch a pilot program this fall to test the system, but they're just getting started with it, and they don't have a firm time frame yet, which isn't as quick as I would like, but in order to have it work, we have to use them to set up the system. They're proposing a limit of 3 items for each student, looking at just books only, not having any fines, and no kids will be sent to the collection service. And then once a year, they'll reload the list and overlay the old information. So we talked about maybe having the cards expire at age 18, but they thought this was easier in the computer system to do it this way. Last meeting, Luke asked how many items we had that were lost and their total cost. From 2016 to 2018, 332 items were considered to be lost for a total of $6,719.57. So that's that.
So it'll just be they use a student ID and that works as their library card.
Yeah, I'm not sure of the details, but probably.
That's what it
I don't
sounds
know
like.
if there'll be a barcode that might be attached to the student IDs. I'm not sure about those.
Yeah, we'll have to
details
work that
yet.
out. But that will only be for Dixon student IDs. Like you said, they're gonna do it differently for Vallejo and stuff, so we won't have kids from other communities coming here and using it.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
okay, great.
So is everybody okay with those other concepts? No fines, no sending to the collection agencies, books only?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, when you say books only, I assume that includes like books on disc or no? Just paper books?
I'm thinking paper books. We didn't really discuss that, but basically they just didn't want kids to come in and take 3 DVDs home or 3
Yeah.
music CDs, and that would be.
Yeah, that
it.
makes sense. Yeah.
They wanted to try and steer the kids more towards academic stuff.
Makes sense.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, last meeting, Guy asked for bullet points for the 18-19 budget, which we'll go into in detail and vote on next month, I believe. But we prepared a list of the bullet points of big expenditures we're going to have in the coming fiscal year. We're looking at installing the outdoor patio for our summer reading programs, which might be part of this year's budget. It kind of depends on how we can get that scheduled. We still have $6,000 in the Moreno contract to spend, and he's looking into an estimate as to what it'll cost to redo the patio for the summer reading program. We looked at that last year, but then I postponed it because I wasn't sure whether we might be making progress towards a program room, which doesn't look like we're going to do that in the near future, so I gave him the go-ahead to do that. As we mentioned last time, we're looking at possible 15 to 20% raises for staff to keep up with the salary survey for Solano and Yolo counties. Those are detailed at the bottom of the sheet. Right at the top is what we're currently looking at. The next section's an additional 15%, and the next section's an additional 20%. 15% would give us an additional $77,000 in salary cost, and 20% would be $103,000.
So our total staff cost is $515,897 currently?
Yes.
Okay.
When did we last run that survey to compare with Yellow and Solano counties?
Oh, 2 months ago?
Okay, so it is real recent and it should be accurate.
Yeah, real recent. I'd also like to look at having a few new staff positions, because we have several people that have already reached the top of their pay scale, so there's really no place for them to go. I'm looking at creating librarian 3 positions for a couple people. They're people who supervise major divisions of the library. In this case, it'd be adult and youth services. A library assistant 3 for the people that supervise the circulation staff. Library clerk 2, and an accounting assistant confidential position. And those, we'll have the exact numbers next time, but we're looking at a probable estimated increase of 17.5% to 37.5%.
Did you put the comparisons? Where are the comparisons to the other county?
Oh, that,
equivalents?
I'm gonna bring that next time.
Okay.
That'll be part
That's
of the
fine.
next
That's
time's
fine. Thanks.
package. We're gonna talk a little bit more about this later, but possibly approving a design firm to help assist in the renovation of the library. The 2 places we're looking at right now, one was $22,000, one was $46,000. But as I'll explain in a few minutes, we're looking at other design firms to see what they might cost. And library renovation, which is part of the design thing, is I'm looking at new carpet, tile, furniture, et cetera, and those costs are undetermined at this point. We'd also look at renewing the Moreno construction contract. I'll ask for that next month. That would be $30,000 as it was this year. And as was mentioned last time, we weren't really sure if we were going to be using the run rates, which means that we look at the actual cost of what was spent this year, rather than just increasing it by X amount like we've done in the past. So, do you have anything to add to that segment?
Can you come up to the,
Did you have the schedules for that?
Oh, no, but that's the next page. The next page gives us a estimate of what the, is it measure, it's measure L? It says measure B on here. The sales tax funds, which is the majority of our revenues. This gives a projection as to what it'll be at the end of the fiscal year.
So what I did on this page was, for the last quarter, for April, May, and June, I took the lowest month of revenues that we received and plugged them in there to give us a ballpark figure where we'll be by the end of this year. And that's like $1,061,000.
Okay, versus our budget of,
To the right, 600,000.
really?
So then what I was recommending is that, the run rate at 100% is roughly $1,061,000, that maybe we use the run rate at 90%.
Right, just
Yeah,
to
a
be
little
conservative.
conservative.
Sure.
And that would bring us at 950,
Okay.
950,000 roughly.
Okay,
And then if you compare that to this year's budget, it's practically,
still 355 over.
Yeah.
right.
Okay. Okay.
So that's something for you to think about and talk
Right.
about and give us
As
some
we take
guidance
that.
on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
That's good, thank you.
That's helpful, thank you.
sure.
That's really good. Okay.
Any more questions about the budget?
Well, that's not enough for right now. That's good information. Do you have something else?
Well, so should I do the first draft using this formula for the revenues?
The 90%?
We don't have to
Yeah.
accept it and approve it, but,
Sure.
I
think
think
that's a good
that's
idea.
more
Yeah, I
than
think it's good.
competent, yep.
Yeah.
okay. Thanks.
Yep. I mean, as it is, it looks like we're still gonna end the year with a huge surplus of cash, which is always a nice thing.
Sure.
Okay.
All right, any other questions?
Not for now.
Okay. For other library things, we're looking at adding a new streaming service called Canopy, in addition to Hoopla, which we already offer the public. Canopy has a lot more academic and educational titles. They also have the Great Courses series and most of the Criterion collection, which has like classic foreign films and classic American films and silent things that don't necessarily show up on Hoopla. And it's all pay as you go, and we can set a limit on how many items are checked out to each person per month. Usually they recommended 10 being the maximum. And one thing that was interesting about this was that they said that all the films have the public performance rights already. So the library or any teachers can show any of the films to their classes, or we can show them to the public. And there were lots of like educational shorts and that kind of thing that were on there, so I thought the schools would be interested in that aspect of it.
How would that work if a teacher wanted to use a show through that? How would it be streamed or put onto a device from the library to the school?
Well,
the
the
teachers.
teacher would log in with a library card,
Oh, okay.
and then they'd be able to stream it. As far as, the projector and stuff, that would be up to the schools.
Yeah.
But I thought that was pretty cool, because lots of times the public performance rights are so much that educational institutions can't really afford to do that. But this case, the sales rep said that it was developed for academic libraries to start with, and then it's kind of spread throughout, and public libraries are picking it up. So the academic libraries always wanted that as an option.
Do you know, for my understanding of Great Courses, it is like exactly that. It's courses for people to learn to do stuff.
Yeah.
Do you know, I know people can watch those individually. Does the library get discounted rates from what an individual at home would pay, or do you have any idea?
Well, we would just pay these guys, Canopy, rather than actually purchasing the Great Courses,
Okay.
which are really expensive. At the last library that I worked at, we had the complete set of the Great Courses and buy the new ones when they came in. And so if you're not familiar with the Great Courses, it's college professors teaching their specialty courses on DVD or CD. But the range is like anything from foreign languages to ancient history to mathematics to science to music appreciation and psychology, and pretty much all the academic subjects are represented.
Yeah, and very renowned professors from big name places and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. On the whole, they're really good. There are a few that are better than others, but
It's great.
yeah. And the only other thing on library activities that I had was that I've submitted all the forms to Solano County to get rid of all the items from the inventory list that we don't own anymore, so that should be cleaned up.
Ongoing business.
Discussion of future of library facilities and properties. So this is a big one, and we did a staff survey to see what the staff was interested in, and then we've also had a staff meeting where we talked about it last Friday for almost a couple hours. The main things from the survey and from talking to people that the staff wanted were a staff break room, more office space, a private restroom for the staff, and a bigger work area. As far as programs go, they wanted to see more teen programs was the biggest emphasis. And this week I've been talking to a person who's potentially an intern who's interested in coming out and doing some work for us. And also, and I haven't talked to the intern about working with teens, but a volunteer came up today that she actually lives in Dixon. She's really interested in working with teens. I was talking to her about maybe doing some sort of poetry slam or an open mic type thing with the teens, and she thought that sounded really interesting. I'm going to talk with Jim and Catherine tomorrow about how to proceed with that, and then talk to her and see if we can get something started.
And what's her name?
Oh, gosh. I have forgotten what her name is, actually. I just Facebook messaged her a couple of times. She was younger. She was already calling me bro, which I thought was kind of amusing, so,
Well, there you go.
yeah, so, there you go. So as far as the staff survey, there's the results with the comments. And I finally got the architect's estimates as to what the two different projects that I went to him with would cost. To renovate the Miller Building, his estimate is around $1.5 million. And this would be to renovate the first floor. And this would kind of be like, looking at it as kind of a blank space that we can do what we want to with it. It doesn't really have like a set plan at this point. The other one, which is cost prohibitive at this point, the one where we were looking at possibly adding on to the building through the children's department, going out into that vacant lot, that would cost almost $4 million by his estimate. So I don't think that we can really afford that at this point, but the Miller Building one seems more possible. I also, after the staff meeting, I went back to him and asked him if he could do a estimate as to what it would cost to remodel the second floor of the Miller. And that would be like a staff-only area to try and get some of the items that the staff wanted. The break room, the private restroom, more office space, workspace, a bigger work area. And if we were to do that, we would have to have an ADA accessible office on the first floor. And I asked him to do an estimate with and without an elevator. So I know the elevator would take up a fair amount of space on the first floor, but it would be preferable if it's something that's affordable.
Okay.
Any questions on the architect's estimate? Okay, the next three things are the proposals from the different design firms. Group 4 is the first one. They have lots of library experience, But their estimate to complete the whole project was an $800,000 to $2.4 million, which is quite a range.
Yeah.
They haven't been real responsive to me. It takes like a long time to get responses to phone calls or emails.
I want to say they submitted a proposal last time when we were thinking about,
They did, yeah.
the name sticks out, Group 4.
Yeah, they're in South San Francisco. The proposal was $45,000, which was twice as much as the other one, but they have done lots of library work. There are lots of pictures of some of the projects that they've done in the back of their proposal.
Woodside Library.
The second design firm is Marianne Downey. They don't have any library experience, but they have considerable other experience working in Sacramento. Their proposal was for $22,000. She says they're willing to work with whatever budget that we come up with to have a unified plan. And they've been super responsive, even though I haven't paid her a dime. She answers emails promptly, or she'll call me almost immediately if she thinks it's something that bears further discussion. So I liked her, but the only caveat is that she really doesn't have library experience. The third group, Carrie Kelly, should be the next one in your packet. And after talking with the staff, we decided to eliminate them. Nobody really liked the look of their proposal. They're a lot cheaper than the other ones, but they just seem to kind of be lacking experience and didn't have the same level of professionalism that the other ones did.
Yeah, I'm not even seeing that one.
Yeah.
It just kind of looks like a typed sheet of
Oh.
paper.
Oh,
Yeah, that's this.
Yeah.
We didn't recognize it because of,
Yes, it wasn't as obviously
That's why I said it's
proposal.
the third one, right? Yeah, so you know, yeah.
So can I just ask a question just one more time? So what is the available cash in our accounts again? I mean, I'm looking at them, but I just want you to tell me exactly. Can you, no, that's all right. Can you come to the, only because people at home.
The available cash is 1.1 million.
It is 1.134, yeah.
In for Fund 426. Now, of that, we have reserves of around 300,000.
Reserves.
Emergency fund
Oh, you mean
reserve.
just because that's what we carry? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we
you would really
never-
say, yeah, we would never go inside the 300,000.
Right,
Yeah, I understand. Okay. But we're also adding to it this year.
yep.
Okay.
And hopefully we'll do something with the reserves, too.
all right.
Okay, that's what I needed.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Okay, so after discussing with the staff, it was decided that I would contact a couple more design places. One was JK Architecture. They've done a lot of places in Yolo County. They did the Davis remodel and also the one in Winters, among other places. I'm trying to set up a time with them to come out and talk to me and look at the building. I contacted Nolan Tam, who was part of the project 10 years ago, and they said once we have a set budget, they'd be willing to talk to us more. So one of the ways that I was looking at possibly funding these projects is that, at least to find out what the Pereira property might be worth. When we bought it in 2008, it was $435,000. But I've asked the assessor's office what it was currently worth, but they say since it's a government-owned property, it has no assessed value. So we would have to hire someone to analyze it and give us an estimate as to what it might be worth at
Call
this point.
anybody,
assessor's office won't tell you what fair market value is, really. So,
any commercial real estate person should be able to give you that
told them to
information.
reach out to Gary Archer.
It's
Yeah,
good
she's
enough. It should be good enough.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
He's the one that represented us in buying the properties.
Hmm.
He knows
Mm-hmm.
about them.
Okay, and our architect had a guy in mind too that he works with.
Now, we shouldn't need to spend any money to get an idea. That's all we're looking for, is an idea of what it costs.
Was it Chuck Kraus? Isn't he the other one?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Chuck Kraus, is he
He does a lot of
Here?
commercial real estate, I think.
here or Vacaville or?
Davis, I think, well, Dixon, Davis area,
Okay,
maybe West
I
Side.
mean, we should, I mean, with the amount of surplus money we have, plus that property, we should be really considering, a significant remodel of what we have inside at a minimum. And then we talk about the other questions that staff had and try to figure out somewhere in between. I mean, Nirvana is Nirvana, but I don't think we can afford Nirvana unless we could sell the property and do that. And we need to, and I wouldn't want to go just to 300,000. I would want to keep a little bit more than that, maybe double that. And we've been pretty good about managing that. And we're talking about raises, so we got to consider that too. So, I mean, we're looking to you guys with staff to come up with that.
okay.
And maybe we should even be considering, you know, well, like I said, I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
All right, any other questions?
No.
Okay, new business. Oh, that's me, I'm sorry. Why isn't Steve talking? All right, so I've got an oral report to read. Pursuant to the Government Code Section 54953, Subdivision C3, the board provides this oral summary of the salary and/or fringe benefits for the executive position of library director. The term of the contract will be 6 months with a monthly salary of $8,333.33, less all statutory and other deductions. In addition, the contract provides the same level of pension, health benefits, sick leave, and vacation time as the other library employees, with added payment for any related health benefit premium costs, for family coverage, and separate administrative personal necessity leave. So I have Steve's contract, and I will entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, and do we have any public comments on Steve's contract before we vote on it? Seeing none. Any other board comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Okay.
Okay, the next thing is the approval of the Caltronics contract. The board approved the switch from Inland to Caltronics in January. The attorney's been working with Caltronics to get an acceptable contract and to construct a letter to get us out of the Inland agreement. If the board approves the contract with Caltronics, we'll send off the letter to Inland tomorrow. There are three components to it. The second one gives us the lease agreement, and the amendment to the equipment lease agreement includes all the changes suggested by the attorney that were agreed to by the leasing company. And then the top one is the contract with Caltronics itself. So there's a contract with Caltronics, and there's also one with the leasing company, which is the same way that it was set up with Inland too. I don't know if I need to go over this, but some of the things that we talked about in January were that Caltronics was going to give us a check for $12,240 to cover the cost of buying out the lease from the other company. And we'll store the copier until it's time for Caltronics to ship it back for us free of charge. The new copier we will be getting does 55 sheets a minute for 20 versus 25, which is what our current copier does.
500.
Caltronics charges no monthly minimum. Inland charges $63 a month. They're set up to automatically replace our toner, and the copies are 45% cheaper than they were with Inland. The estimated savings were $525 a month.
Wow.
According to the study
Take
that we
that.
looked at. Okay. And they're also throwing in a HP printer replacement, because we have a second small printer over at the Public Computers, and they're gonna give us that for free and install it for us when the other one goes away.
Okay.
Great.
Awesome.
All right, any questions?
And you said the attorney prepared the letter? Yes.
Okay.
Any further questions? Public comments? Seeing none? Okay, would you,
Do you need an action on this?
It looks like
Yeah,
we-
actually to vote to approve the three parts of the contract.
okay, I'll entertain a motion.
You mean your vote for the Caltronics one, the equipment lease with JJR Enterprises, is that correct?
Yeah, and then the third one is the set of agreements made between the copier leasing company and the attorney. Those are the suggested changes.
This is the amendment here,
Yeah, that's the amendment.
okay?
So the JJR Enterprises, that's the
The
lease
leasing company,
for the
leasing
new
company.
machine.
Yeah.
okay? Okay, I'll move to approve as stated.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, the next one is one that we started talking about last month, where we only had 3 different types of employees defined under the employee status part of the policy and procedures manual. And we needed to have a 4th, which would cover the extra help employees, because they don't really fit in any of the 3 previously defined categories. The attorney, Scott, went through and rewrote the temporary and extra help employee definitions. And those should be on the second page of
Yeah, right.
these 2.
So 3015.3 is gonna change to this versus what's in there as at the current time. And 3015.4 is the brand new extra help definition, correct?
Right, yeah, that's right.
And again, as you stated, this is Scott's work here, correct?
Yes.
Do you have a comment?
I do. I have a question. I wasn't expecting a change on the temporary employee, and I'd just like to know why it changed to a maximum of 3 months instead of the maximum of 6 months.
I'm not sure why he changed it, whether he had a specific reason to change that, but if so, he didn't really give me an explanation as to why it was changed from 6 to 3.
Because that wasn't requested.
No, that's true. I didn't request that change, but he may have had some reason that he thought it should be changed to that.
But we don't know it.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I see our probationary period is 6 months.
Yeah, I was looking at that too. But it's 6 months of service, and the other one's 3 months of service.
Do you guys want to confirm with Scott first?
Well, I would just say on that one thing, yeah.
Yeah,
she
maybe just
needs
get some definition around.
Clarification, I
why,
mean, this isn't hurting us right now, right? There
Right.
isn't anybody that falls in this category, is that correct?
The temporary? No.
Okay, and
There,
the extra help?
there are lots of extra help people, yeah.
But this not being in our policy, is it harming anybody at this point?
It really came about because one of the extra help employees asked for bereavement leave a couple months ago. And it wasn't clearly in the policy as to whether she should get it or not.
Right.
I talked to one of the HR attorneys at the California Chamber of Commerce. They recommended that we give her the pay,
Same
but
as-
to actually come up with the definition as soon as possible and add it to
Of
the,
extra help,
Yeah, of extra help to add it to.
Well, I'd
the-
just go back and, I mean, then it isn't hurting us at this point.
Right.
So I'd go back to Scott, clarify that, and then we can approve it at the next meeting.
Okay,
I think we need to approve it all together, because
Yeah,
there may
we're
be a
gonna make
reason why.
He put him in at 3 months, both one of them. I don't think it's gonna hurt. I don't think it's hurting, that's why I asked the question.
yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
item D.
All right, and then the last, well, next to last thing is the revision of the policy manual. We talked about going through the policies and procedures manual with suggested changes and doing a little bit each time. And that's the next section. I went through and redline changes to the different policies. Most of them is just kind of clearing up the commission versus the board, wording of district librarian as opposed to library director.
Right.
And then I also updated the American Library Association statements of desirable library service traits that they have that were part of the policy too.
And has this, and these are all the changes we were talking about, but has this been reviewed by anybody else, the changes?
They're based on the employee handbook database from the California Chamber of Commerce, which kind of tells me exactly what needs to go into a manual, but no, the attorney hasn't looked at these yet.
Okay,
The staff went over them at the staff meeting on Friday,
okay.
and they made comments, and I made changes, and they caught a couple things that I hadn't seen.
I think I would like more time to
That's-
review
So,
this.
I was gonna say, too
and
many
then-
pages for a.
Yeah, and then perhaps we review this, go over it at the next meeting, and then you can bring us to the next meeting, the next
Set
section.
of
Yeah,
stuff.
so we just do this, yeah, sort of a revolving,
Okay,
you know,
all right.
yeah, so we have a little chance to
This
look
is
at it.
only part of it.
Yeah, but this is great, I'm glad we're moving forward on this, is exactly what we should be doing.
It doesn't, I mean, it doesn't look like there's a ton of changes here.
No, but I don't wanna miss any.
I don't either.
And I think individuals can ask me questions if they have them, as long as you don't, like, confer among each
Sure.
other.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
yes,
that's right.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
all right. And then, last item,
Approve.
approval of the minutes.
Okay. I'll move to approve, since I signed them already.
Second.
Okay, any public comments on approving the minutes? Any board comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
You turn it off.